For another perspective now, I'm joined by Matthew Smith, the founder and CEO of Fortify Rights, a human rights organization based in Southeast Asia. First of all, Matthew, tell me about the evidence and the stories that you and your team have documented along the border of Myanmar and Bangladesh.
We've been documenting a sustained, systematic campaign of violence against the civilian population. Of course, this was all sparked by attacks perpetrated by Rohingya militants against state security forces. And in response, the Myanmar army has basically led a widespread and systematic attack against the civilian population. We're documenting mass killings, mass rape, and mass gang rape. We're documenting violence, including, infant children being thrown into fires, state security forces killing men, women, and children of all ages, burning down entire villages. So the situation has been horrific now for several months, actually.
I know this has been going on for some time, and the events of the last few weeks, in some ways, as horrendous as they are, also seem unprecedented. I know you've been documenting human rights abuses for some time there. How is this different this time?
Well, we certainly haven't seen this scale of violence. More than 500,000 people have been forced out of their homes and fled into Bangladesh just in the last few weeks. That's unprecedented in all of Myanmar's history, actually.
In every story like this, when you're talking to people, you're trying to get them to tell you their story. Are there stories that stand out from you from your conversations? I know you were there recently.
I was with a gentleman not too long ago who, in the span of 2 hours, watched 9 of his family members get killed. There's another woman, Rohingya woman, who watched 2 of her sons, watched Myanmar Army soldiers slit the throats of her 2 sons right before her, and then tell her the same would happen to her if she didn't convert to Buddhism. And so these types of stories haunt us, but we can't be so horrified by it that we fail to act. And so that's the one thing we're urging now is there has to be international action.
What kind of international action? There's been talk, but so far not much action.
That's right. It has been disappointing. I think this was an opportunity, and still is, for the international community to help stop, to help end and remedy atrocity crimes against humanity. And the international response, there have been a lot of condemnations, but very little action. So we're hopeful that the UN Security Council will finally act. We're hopeful that diplomatic pressure will come to bear on some members of the Security Council, like China and Russia, for example, that have essentially been providing Myanmar with diplomatic cover.
What kind of pressure are you talking about?
One specific thing that could happen urgently would be an arms embargo on the Myanmar military. This is an action that the Myanmar military most definitely does not want the Security Council to take. Anyone who's responsible for these atrocity crimes taking place should face international sanctions. And this is another call right now. And then apart from that, there's bilateral relations that governments have with Myanmar. And the international community needs to speak with one voice. There has to be humanitarian access to these areas. The government of Myanmar should allow UN fact finders to access these areas to help establish the facts. And these are things we're not seeing right now from the government of Myanmar.
You talk about a collective kind of action from the international community, but of course, sitting from where I am now, what do you think countries like Canada should be doing?
It's been heartening to see the level of concern from the government of Canada. We're very pleased to see that, and we're very happy to share information and engage with lawmakers in Canada to help out on the situation. I think right now, if Canada could apply pressure to not only Aung San Suu Kyi, but also military leaders in Myanmar, that would be important. Any sort of diplomatic relations that Canada can leverage to encourage international action right now would be very important.
Do you really think that will make a difference to the hundreds of thousands of people now who have, basically homeless and stateless and to a certain extent, except for people like you, voiceless?
the biggest needs that we're seeing among Rohingya people who have been displaced by this are food and shelter, particularly on the Bangladesh side. So there are humanitarian organizations that are working day and night to provide aid to this population of people, and they need support. That's a type of support that that certainly affected communities will would receive immediately if that support comes through.
Matthew, thank you very much for your time on this.
Thank you, Allison. We appreciate it.
That's our program for this week. Thanks for watching. We like to hear from you. You can reach us on Facebook and Twitter or by email at perspective@cpac.ca. As we leave you, some images from the Rohingya refugee camps in Bangladesh. The images are from UNICEF.